Okay, so I am here today to show everyone this plugin I've been working on for Reforger. It's a bit of a thing to go through, so I'll share all the links in the description. If you want to learn how it's done or pull it apart and fuck with any of the code, you're more than welcome to jump on GitHub, and I'm going to share the link for this. But essentially, this is like an ambient vehicle plugin that has a system, a trader, and it works with the DynamicEconomy setup that WYQ has done, which is a really great system for adding banks and wallets and cash and things like that into Reforger. So I heavily recommend everyone check this out. It runs on Merkout and some of those other servers. So just jump in here. Now I am on Discord too, so if anyone interrupts us, we might have to just say hello. But to take you through what it does, I'll take you through some of the basic stuff here, but it's a config setup. It allows you to spawn in vehicles, this UI feedback and all that stuff. This is the actual menu for trading. And I built a little trader for everyone to work with, as well as I can briefly talk through the dealer config and how the spawners work ambiently in-game if you use that setup too. How the catalog variants work, custom setup examples. I've built the Workbench plugins, so these are set up to pull in vehicles that you might have added as mods. And we can work through some basic tweaks and things like that now. You can grab it from Reforger 2. If you just search ARGH-AmbientVehiclePlugin, you will find it. It does have a couple of prerequisites, but none of these are huge files. As you can see, my mod is a pretty small file too. So we'll go into the Workbench, and I'll show you from scratch. So I don't have much in here at the moment. I've built a test world that we'll play with, but I'll show you some of the assets very quickly that we've set up here. So feel free to play around with these. None of this is, I guess, set in stone. But I've built a little dealership, nothing fancy. This doesn't work too much, but the sign will spawn cars. I've also built in structures. Let's see if I've got my stuff in here, sorry. I may not have even saved those. I guess I'm just using the XOB, so I'll show you that too. Just made a sign, a brief version of my sign, that glows in the dark at night and things like that. Nothing fancy there. Didn't want to put even colliders or stuff on that because no one's really walking on the roof. It's just there, visible. But the stuff that matters for you guys, at least, is going to be in here. So you can put down these traders, and you can play with these. But the way the trader works is you basically need this component added, so ARGH vehicle dealer component. This will point to a config, which I'll show you how we set up shortly. Spawn on purchase. There's just a name. I will set up the garage function and get that working eventually. Spawn point entity name. So this is where we can just make any item on the world, like a generic entity, for example. And if we just F2 and, call this spawn point. Go back to this and we chuck that in the spawn point entry name. That's all we need to do, and that will guarantee when you're in the menu it'll spawn vehicles to this guy. So we'll get to how that works, and I might as well just show you the meat of it. So if you want to play around with the version I've set up, go into world editor. Now the first time you guys load in the mod, you will need to set up the configs. You might get a warning saying yes to running the scripts. There's nothing wrong with that. Feel free to read them, but if you need to be in the world editor to see this plugin. So up here you won't see it. If you're in a world editor, you will see the plugins. So there is the ambient vehicle catalog. So I'll go to the console so we can see what's going on here. So click this bad boy. And what this does is it goes and scans all of your vehicles that could possibly exist. And it figures out which ones could be the cars. And it dumps them into a config file for us. So it's just loaded 191. Now obviously you will need to fine tooth comb through some of these, picking which ones are good and which ones are bad. But if we go into, let's minimize some of these, configs, entity catalog, and we have ambient vehicles, and this is what it provides us. And if you come into the children, you'll see variants, and within each of these, they're vehicles. And within each of these, you can come in here and for ambient vehicle spawning that I'll show you later on, maybe if we get time, you can set like the chance of them spawning, so 1 being 100%, etc. And you can override and set a manual supply cost for things too. So 1 would be $1. We could set this to, I don't know, $500, for example. So we'll try and find the BTR 70 when we're in there and see if it's worth 500. You need to save this. And you can close it. That's about it. Cool things you can do. You can add in other mods. Example, project settings. Let's add in another car mod that everyone likes to use. So we'll go find, and forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, I think it's Gatorma. I hope if I can find it. Gatorma's pickup truck or his car pack. Let's load his car pack in, hey? So sedans is the name of this mod. So we go, okay, we'll save it. We can close. I'm going to reopen tools. It's just a reload that mod we've just added in. Now, obviously, this mod won't be included, but you can add any mod you want into this if you start a new project. So again, we'll go back in here, and we'll clear this again, and we'll run the plugin. Yes. And we've added quite a few more cars this time. So we can go in and have a look. And you'll see it started to add in a number of extra vehicles in here. Example, the Javelin. Now, you will need to, as I said, be careful and go through these and make sure you know which ones do and don't need to spawn. Example, there are some base vehicles and things like that that don't spawn very well. A lot of these base vehicles you'll want to disable. So to disable vehicles, all you need to do is come in and just click the button. Have a look through all of these. Tracked vehicle base. Turn him off. Javelin vehicle base. If you're not sure, open it up, have a look. Is it a car? Does it look like it'll work? Put it in the game, play with it. So save all of this just for the sake of showing you. The exact same for the flying vehicles, guys. So you can add in WCS, all of those mods. And again, in-world plugins, flying vehicle setup. You'll see the same kind of setup down here, and I'll add that in there. Once that's set up, there is a couple more things we need to do. Now we need to go back to the system configs. And if we want to play with a dealer, we have a flying dealer setup and a vehicle dealer setup. These are essentially the same thing. But again, as we said before, we name it and we give it that config file by default. So this points to that one that we're playing with. So that'll load all of those in and their manual prices. We can just set a default price for things here if we want. So we'll just set it to 50. This is before, well, this counts 50 for everything that's set to 0. Anything that's overridden in here will have their individual prices. And you can also go and add individual categories in here. So this is where you might want to list, for example, all my cars, and I list them under ARG. God bless Timu. And prices, as we can see here. So we'll save this, we'll close this, we'll go into the game, and I will show you how the dealership works. So here's a test world I've set up. And this is the test world for DynamicEconomy and DynamicLoot, I think. So you can see they've got the ATMs and things like that in here. And little vehicle dealer I've set up for everyone. Spent the time to make it kind of cute if you want to put it in the world and play with it. So it's got lights, all those kinds of nice things on it. Alright, cool. So spawn in and we'll show you this. So when you spawn in, you'll see number of helpers as per the usual things. But you do see ARG helpers come in here for the flying cars and things like that. So this will show you the availability of vehicles and catalogs. If you have ambient spawners set up, they'll spawn in that. I might make them in a separate vehicle, separate video. Kind of just want to show people the trader here. So vehicles, helis. So if you want to bring up the car, push F. And the menu I've kept pretty intuitive. So you can use your arrows. You can go up or down. Just check what vehicles you may or may not want to spawn. You want to change the categories on the left, you can either click. Or you can just use your arrows to go through them. And then you can obviously pick the cars you may want to pick as well. And you can purchase. Does the transaction. Takes money out. And we have a car. Same thing for the helicopters. Made some tweaks to this. Seems to be bugging out in my console, and I wasn't having this issue earlier. Oh, strange. But any of these vehicles you can spawn in, the armed ones, for example. That's pretty versatile. There's also checks for if you don't have enough money, things like that. For example, this car, 10 grand. You can't buy that car, we don't have 10 grand, do we? There's also some checks on spawning cars in. You can spawn up to 3 cars in 10 seconds. Oh, it might let me spawn more. Probably don't spawn too many cars in. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it, guys. Hope everyone has some fun, play around with his bugs, things like that. Let me know. If you need any questions for how to get stuff to spawn in, it's pretty straightforward. In the world, you can just see the setup I've done here quickly. So using the traders that come with DynamicEconomy, I add in my component. I set this to spawn to the dealership spawner, which is just this guy here. And all I've done is just name it dealership spawner. The only other thing we've had to do is add in the actions, which can be done through the action manager component. And you can add a open vehicle dealer component through ARGH open vehicle dealer action, which you come up here and set these settings in here, which is just the usual settings you would use for a trader. Exact same thing for the flying boy. You just point it at the flying conf. Make a heli trade spawn. It's just literally a generic entity. The generic entity doesn't even need anything on it. And this will just drop that at that point. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to reach out, ask. Yeah, this is what I've spent, I guess, the last week working on to try and appease myself. Alright, thanks so much. Cheers.